by my kitty co-host Midnight, and we are here today with John Wayne Bosley. John, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And we're going to talk to John about Angels Among Us, awesome trailer, but especially we are actually skipping the refrigerator magnet challenge today because we're automatically giving it to John because we want to hear all about his marketing tips. But before we get into the marketing, John, tell us now, I know Daniel Knudsen shot your pitch trailer.
First thing we filmed, which I had to reshoot later because I needed a little bit different equipment to do what I needed to do. We shot, there was an abandoned road, not abandoned, it was built for an industrial park that was never built, and it's in a little town called Coleman, which is in Midland County, and I had filmed there before 7, 8 years ago. We shot like this post-apocalyptic accident scene there, so I could call these people up and I asked them to film there. We filmed an accident scene there. We had 2 cars, we had this motorcycle, and then that was late one night. I think it was a Thursday, and then that Friday we were shooting in Bay City. We shot the alleyway scene, and then we had it raced all the way down to Troy. We shot a bunch of scenes there. We also had to swap out locations because one of the locations didn't work out for a hospital scene. So we kind of had to guerrilla film for outs, and then we filmed another scene called Mount Zion Church, which is in Clarkston. Jimmy, who played the mechanic who gets injured in the accident scene. I have a hard time pronouncing Jimmy's last name, so he can correct me later. Jimmy is related to the senior pastor at Mount Zion, so he was able to work things out so we could film the ending scene there in the parking lot and film it so it looks like it's more like a parking lot in the middle of the woods, the way we filmed it up at night, and we had the fog machines going and everything. And then the next day was the Saturday, and we filmed, I'm trying to remember what it's called, Midwest Studios or something like that. It's basically, normally they use it for photography, but they had this space where I could pull the cars in. We could film all the car scenes. We did a test shoot, a test screening between Jen and a young actress named Hallie. And then everything we're racing because we're filming and we got equipment that's malfunctioning. You have to go buy another piece of equipment. So we're constantly always fighting to beat it in that Saturday. And then that Sunday, we filmed the remaining parts of the police chase for the alleyway, and then we had to do the drowning scene, which my one producer, her sister owned a pool, so we had a whole bunch. We were driving up and down everywhere filming this stuff because you had to go wherever that you could find a location to work with. And then I think it was about 2 weeks later, we went back to Bay City and I went and worked with a guy named Tyler Hamlin, and we refilmed the alleyway scene with the slow motion shots, and we used the Mobi. It wasn't Mobi. It was the Ronin. Same thing. It's basically what do they call it? It's kind of like a Steadicam, but it's different. And we filmed that. I actually got to film one of the shots when Grover McKeon falls down. That was actually my shot. I got my one shot in. So I filmed that one, and then Tyler filmed the other shots. And then we filmed with a semi-truck that we couldn't get the last time around. So I got somebody on a semi-truck to come in. We filmed his shots with the drone, and then we had to reshoot this other one with Jim Kirsch because he had hurt his leg the first time around, so he had to do it a second time. So we had to frame things up a certain way because he could only run like 2 feet in, and then he couldn't go any farther. Oh. So it was interesting. And then later we eventually got Tyler Michael Smith did the soundtrack. So him and I going back and forth, and I would give him reference soundtracks. I gave him the soundtrack to Lady in the Water, which is an M. Night movie, and it has almost a fairy tale sound. And so I said, this is kind of the feel I wanted for the soundtrack. And so it goes up and down a lot throughout the pitch trailer. So it was a challenge, and part of it was I wanted to make sure I encapsulated the whole concept, but at the same time, I needed to show I'm the only person who should be directing this. And then you wanted to get the audience attached to the look and the style and the pacing of how I would be telling the story. So it couldn't just be a 30-second or a 60-second trailer. It had to have more of a story built into it. So it's not a traditional trailer. I'm not even sure. It's probably closer to this term I used back in 2009. I used a term called a micro-pilot, because there was a trend going on for a period of time where these 3 to 5 minute short, they weren't even shorts, they were shorter than a short, but they were dropping them on YouTube. And these directors were getting picked up by Hollywood. And they would basically encapsulate the idea in about 3 to 5 minutes, and they would drop it on there. Now, they couldn't be like a small personal film, so it couldn't be like a husband and wife arguing over a divorce. That wasn't going to work. But it had to be something that was big and bold. So, like, the most famous one was one called Panic Attack. And the guy had all these CGI robots coming into his home city down in Uruguay, and they're blowing everything up, and it all cuts together in like 3 to 5 minutes. He drops it on the internet, on YouTube. Kanye West picks up on it within 24 hours, tweets it out. It gets, I think, 2 million views in like less than 48 hours, and he has all these executives out in Hollywood calling him up. And at the end, I think it was $1 million contract he got off of a 5-minute video.
Well, and John, you also said that you want to be the one to make this movie. You don't want to just sign it off or, get a paycheck for it and let somebody else do it. And so what you went through just to make this pitch trailer, like I know Jen Gatson-Chandler flew from wherever she lives to do this, and you had Daniel Knudsen for the DP, and I saw filmmaker Joel Paul Rising played the police officer. But the distances that you had to go in those couple of days, how long did it take to drive to those different places?
Well, the second day, once we got shut down shooting in Bay City, I think it was about a 2.5-hour drive down to the motel we're staying at, and then so we can set up stuff. And then you're driving another probably 30 minutes, 40 minutes north to get to Clarkston. And then the next day, well, the easy day was Saturday, because that one was, we were in one location the whole time. You were just swapping out the cars in it. And part of the point of doing the pitch trailer also was, I was doing a test shoot, because about a third of the film, you get all these car scenes. And I was tired of shooting green screen. You can't afford a process trailer unless you want to drop down a lot more money. So it's like, well, how do you create something that cinematically looks beautiful, and it's a scene where you're giving the actors more time to actually do the performance, while not blowing out the budget. So I had done a pile of research on it, and so part of that was me testing, how do I make this thing work? How do I and so there was a lot of tinkering around, because you see all these great how-to videos on how to do certain things, and then you go to actually do it yourself, and you find out that it's not exactly what they say. So, I'm throwing down another $2,000 here and there, trying to make it through that day to get done with the shoot, because certain techniques weren't. But you see, by me testing it, when I talk to an investor and I say, this is how we're going to do this, and it's going to feel on the screen like we were filming at tons of locations across the country. And yet I say, we're actually filming 3 or 4 of these scenes potentially per day. You're like, oh, so it's not a big deal that these scenes are only 1 minute, 2 minutes long. Nope, we're good. And I think that you got to be able to go in and talk to an investor, not just as an artist, but you have to talk to them almost like an engineer, saying, this is how we assemble this assembly line, so that I can just, systematically just knock out every single thing we need. And like the way I'm doing the shot list and the storyboards, there's going to be, for every scene, there's A version and B version. A version is, this is when I get to do everything the way I want to do it. And B version is when my producer says, our daily budget we're running kind of tight on, you're going to have to find a way to speed this up. And then I go, okay, we're shooting this scene now, the B version, where it moves faster. But if you can think out your contingency plans before you go to shoot, then your contingency plan still matches the look of the original plan. But if you're going to go by just one plan and you run into a problem, and now you have to improvise, your improvisation may make that one scene stand out like it was filmed wrong. So my attitude was to always consistently have contingency plans the whole entire project. Test everything you can beforehand, so that way when you're spending the real budget, then you aren't wasting time and blowing through budget and freaking out. You're saying, okay, I came up with a plan. We ran into this issue. Here's plan B, or here's plan C. And so that was part of it, was to do this test shoot. So the drone stuff looks awesome. It just makes me more nervous because it is a moving object. They're not toys. You can hurt somebody. Yeah. You can smash things. So I'm always extremely safety conscious. So when that thing went in the air, I'm quietly praying to myself, going, don't crash anything and don't hit anybody. And so everything worked great. I was quite surprised with it. The one actress, Hallie, she came up from Florida, so we actually had to fly her all the way up. And I was also nervous with that one because her and Jen were only saw each other for 2 hours, the whole thing, and it was the car scenes. There's a scene where she's in the hospital. Jen and this young actress are not in the room together. Jen is playing again. I'm actually laying in the bed. My mic pointed up at her, and she's talking to me. And we're filming her. And then the other day, the young actress is in the bed, the hospital bed, and then my makeup artist, she's talking to her, and they're going back and forth. And so neither one of them were in the scene together. So that was a little tricky. But I was worried that Jen had to get out, had to leave at one point, go to another event. And then the actress was flying in, and I couldn't get the schedule to work perfect. And so there was about a 2-hour window that if the one actress's plane was late, the two would never have crossed paths. Wow. But it worked out last minute, and we got, I think, 99% of all the shots I wanted. So I was excited.
Well, and you have done so much. You spent a lot of money, put a lot into this, and also I noticed on your Facebook page, and there was a reference to your operating system having a unique issue. And what that says to me is spiritual warfare.
Yeah, I actually ended up, I called up Jason Noble, who's one of the producers. He's going to be like running the marketing, the church connection stuff, and I'd message him, and I'm like, I don't understand what's going on here. Like, why is, and we actually took it to the place we bought it from, and they're like, we've never seen this problem before. And if they didn't reboot the whole system, then, and if it didn't work after that, they weren't sure how to fix the problem. It was a weird update that Windows did. So, it was weird because it was right after I had just done the color grading, and the next day I was literally going to start mixing all the sound together, and then Tyler Smith was going to send me the remaining stuff for the music, and then it just shut me down right then. So that was one of the things that Jason took from it was, well, if you've been running into this many problems, then it must be important. So just take it as a positive, and we're just going to keep on moving forward. So, and I'm expecting, I'm already facing interesting challenges as I'm going. I'm expecting that's kind of part of the deal.
Well, yeah, that's one thing I noticed, that it looked like right away when I saw that post, I thought, oh, that's spiritual warfare, because what you're doing is so important. So for those who haven't seen the pitch trailer yet,
You saw him, didn't you?
Who?
You know who? I saw him too.
Stop! Police! Help!
Something happened in that alleyway that I can't explain. Started having pain in my chest. laying there, and I'm just begging God to let me live. Then this man walks up to me, calm, confident, out of nowhere, wearing a suit.
You're not going to die. God has a different plan for you.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, you do. And you're not the only one.
You have a broken collarbone and a broken fibula on your left leg. Tell the paramedics to check those when they show up.
Who are you? Wait.
There's a man in a suit. He saved me. I think he was an angel.
I heard a rumor about a runaway. Almost got hit by a semi-truck. She got saved by a man in a suit.
What are you seeking? What is it you're really searching for?
Oh God, help me. Help me.
This can't be a coincidence that all of us, from different cities and different lives, all meet the same mysterious man. And then weeks later, we all cross paths. There's got to be a reason. There's got to be a purpose to all of this.
It's him!
There he is.
Are you sure?
Can you tell us what, in your opinion, is so important about this movie?
You know, that's the weird part about it is, like, I wrote it, and obviously you're trying your best when you're writing it to do what you're supposed to do and write it and make it impactful. I don't think I fully comprehended the potential impact of the pitch trailer until other people started watching the pitch trailer. Now, first off, half the people who like the pitch trailer are not people who would watch a faith-based film. They're just people. I had one lady who commented. She said something about this. This gives me hope. I have tears running down my face. And I had no idea who she was. Nothing on her Facebook page gave me any impression that she ever watches anything faith-based. It was just that it made a connection to. I think part of it is one of the conversations back and forth between Jason Noble and I was about, you know, what's the tagline for the film? What is it? What's the takeaway that we want people to see it? And it was, you are not alone. And it was seeing the movie as more like you watch it, and then you use it as a positive outreach to somebody else. You don't know where that person is at that point in their life. You don't know what their struggles are. Everybody's carrying some sort of burden, but you don't see it. Most people aren't going to tell you they're facing something, but you don't know where they're at and how much saying to somebody you're not alone, and that connection. And the people were just, I had tons of people who would, especially the alleyway scene, they'd say, I had an experience like that one. I can't put my finger on exactly what the situation happened. I can't explain it, but something happened, and I know that I wasn't alone, that God was in that situation with me. Now, some people will thought I would just say, like, I know for a fact there was an angel. And there's other cases where I just don't know. I just know that there was somebody who showed up, and it was just the right moment, the right time. And I'm like, well, does it really matter whether it was an angel, whether it was a person? I mean, at the end of the day, the fact was you're not alone in your situation. I think that's our big takeaway we hope that people get from it. I had other people who went up to me and said they like the fact of the stories about how all these strangers cross paths, and how that's how God works. He has strangers crossing paths, that somehow me crossing paths with this other person, I'm a blessing to them, they're a blessing to me, and that God uses strangers to connect where we normally wouldn't. And the idea that it's there's this grand story that's bigger than any of us, any of the individual parts. So it's not, there's in a sense, like the way the film is, there, in a sense, there's kind of a lead character within the group, in the sense that the police detective is a very active character. He's pursuing the clues to try to understand what he experienced. But at the same time, really, the story is about 5 different stories, and the real lead part was God, and he's kind of invisible in the storyline. And that's kind of the idea, that we all play we're all supporting characters. We're all in a sense, we're a minor role in our own story. We think we're the spotlight's on us, when in fact we're just part of a bigger picture. So that's kind of where I would take. We definitely step into some pretty difficult territories with some of the stories. Like we deal with opiate addiction. We deal with one of the situations, the person doesn't actually get healed. We deal with stuff like teen bullying, and one of the characters at one point was suicidal. We deal with divorce. We deal with a sense of abandonment. There's a whole bunch of different situations. So there's something that everybody connects with. And we weren't just like randomly pulling stuff out of the hat and saying, here's some crazy stuff to shove into a movie. Like, just stuff would come to me, and I'd be like, I really feel like I'm supposed to put this in the story, and then it would be included, and somehow it would strengthen the whole entire script, that it made more sense. So, anyways, that's kind of that's what the takeaway. I think I'm more taken back by how people are responding to it than I think I expected.
Well, and can you tell the story of how your mom saw this?
Okay, so Jason Noble was showing the pitch trailer at a bunch of these breakthrough events, and one of them was in Maine. There was one of these churches, I believe it was, in Bangor, Maine. My mom lives within distance of picking up the radio station in there. So one of the radio DJs had actually gone to the event, and he watched the pitch trailer, and then he heard Jason talking about it, and he was enthused and excited about this project that was being developed. And this DJ just picks up on it. He's a radio station, and he just starts talking about it. Well, my mom happens to turn on the radio, and she's hearing about this movie that's coming out. It's called Angels Among Us. It's going to be this really great movie, blah, blah, blah. And she has no idea that he's talking about my movie, even though I think I've mentioned it like several times to my mom, but I don't think it clicked what the movie was called. And then she's telling me on this phone, I think it was Thanksgiving, she's telling me about how she was hearing about this movie. And I'm like, Mom, that's my movie. She's like, no way, this guy's like talking like crazy about how this is going to be such a great movie and everything. So,
well, I mean, you could teach a seminar on this. You have taught us so much. No, seriously, have you ever thought about teaching some kind of seminar on all this, like a conference?
I debated that, or my wife's like, people should just hire you as a consultant. I'm going to throw out some tidbits, just because I know we're kind of tight on time. Right now, everything for Angels Among Us feels like a perfect storm for me. Everything, I mean, I couldn't have planned this out as well. I mean, there's things that I've been planning for a while, but I couldn't, here's my marketing plan. So basically, I've got, here's some stuff that Jason's going to be doing, and that's going to connect to an online campaign. Here's the stuff, my little special project. That's going to connect to the online campaign. That's going to drive towards 7 different big events offline, which will then drive to the online, which then means by the time I go to do the actual theatrical release, which I think we're aiming for 500 theaters opening, you'll actually have 500 theaters with a whole pile of people when you're opening. And that should be your goal every time, is when you go to talk to an investigator, you can say with a confidence, I 100% believe you're going to get your money back plus another 50 to 100%. You should be able to have some confidence. Now, does that mean 100% that everything's going to be built? There's no way that you have a foolproof plan, but you should have a plan design that you know how you're going to produce it, how do I stay on budget, how do I have a contingency plans when everything goes wrong because it's going to happen, how do I market this thing, how do I get it, what happens if these distributors say no, where do you go, is there a way that you can do distribution and cut them all out? If you thought out every single part of the process, and if so, then you can say to your investors, I feel 100% confident I'm going to get your money back plus more. Because technically, for an investor, getting back what you spent isn't 100%. It's supposed to be about 115%. Because they assume that you had put your money into something else if you hadn't put it in my movie. So either you put it in the stock market, you put it into some sort of bonds or treasury, note or something, and you put it into something. People who have money, they're smart. They put money into things. They expect it to make a return. And if you ended up going getting back 100%, they lost money actually. So you should be aiming for 150, 200% return on investment. You're gonna run into problems, but you have to have a plan that you have to turn into a turnkey production. You have to be in a position where they hand you money, you turn the key, and we get the engine rolling. And that's basically what I've been doing. I'm going to lock the script down. I thought I had it locked down, and we added a few more things over the last couple of months, but I'm locking it down. I'm going to sit down, do my shot list, option B, option A on every scene, so that way if I run into problems, I can have contingencies, storyboard the thing to death, come up with the actual look. That's the other criticism that I found with the vast majority of faith-based films is they don't have a look. Everything looks the same.
Well, John, you are an amazing guest. You filled my brain with so much information. Can we have you back for like a shout out sometime when you have some sort of update that you'd like to share?
Okay, so actually it was even right before we, even the day before we shot the pitch trailer, we had met somebody who had advised some serious people out there and knew tons of angel investors, so he knew how to frame it a certain way. And he had said he had seen a ton of pitch decks. By the time he finished it, he said he had seen a ton of pitch decks for independent films. This was the only one he seriously knew would actually get the funding. But they weren't looking at it from the faith-based angle. They're looking at it purely from... but it was recently, right before we did the pitch trailer, that a Christian investor had become seriously interested in it. But yeah, we would definitely be open to doing like a follow-up and talking about going forward. Our goal is to try to shoot either May or June. I'll have to see how it all plays out, because there's going to be certain things that have to fall in place to make that happen.
Do you have time? Do you have time for a quick prayer? Can we pray about this for you, John? All right. Well, thank you, Jesus, so much for this amazing time with John Wayne Bosley, filmmaker who knows the ins and outs like nobody I've ever talked to. Jesus, John is prepared, and you said to whom much is given, much is required, and we see a lot that John has been given with all of his insights and background and the amazing people that are part of this. So we know you're going to open up the doors for angels among us and send those angel investors to him who have a true servant heart to serve John's project and his expertise. In your name, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Thank you.
Thanks again for this time, John, and we look forward just to seeing what God's doing with this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Not start, so I gotta pray every day. Don't even care what people say, they gon' hate you anyway. Jesus is the only way.